It's 4 o'clock on Friday, thank God, and it's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! This week starring iCarly. There she is. And thank you, fake band. Thank you, fake audience. Now I know why it takes the chat room. Let me get that open up. Hello, Dan Weber. Hello, Jim Stamper. Hello, We Will Write You a Song. Hey, Marcus, how are you, dude? I was just talking about you. I think it was on an episode of this. I can't remember now, but good to see you. Thanks for joining us on one of these. Hello, Cass. Yesterday I got a whole bunch of emails and comments in the comments section about people saying that they were getting the alerts for the shows after I started them, like as much as 6 or 8 minutes after I started them. I've got Ariana's producing the show today. She says, Michael, don't forget to call Bobby Borg at 5 p.m. So all you guys at 5 p.m. my time, at like 4:55, start reminding me in the chat room. Because, man, the other day I totally blew it with Bobby Borg. He's such a great guest. And we were all on here chatting away, having a good old time. And I'm getting all these messages on my computer from 310 blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, who the hell is that? It was Bobby Borg. He actually stepped out of his class that he was teaching, like at UCLA or somewhere. Or actually, I think he was doing an online class, and he stepped out of there to do the show, and I didn't pick up. So anyway, we've got him scheduled for 5 o'clock. We're going to do a 90-minute Quarantini happy hour today, and I'm excited to have him back. Andre, I was looking at, I saw that you upgraded to Dispatch yesterday, and that reminded me to go look at your website and read all about your fishing stuff. Man, oh man, I cannot wait to meet you and go fishing with you. I'm in a tortured state right now. As I probably mentioned on the shows before, I'm a fanatical saltwater fisherman. I'm way past the stage where I used to go out and like big boats with a fighting chair and a big rig, and go after sailfish and marlin and stuff like that. That gets old really quickly because you're using such heavy tackle and the rod and reel are connected to the chair. Basically, it's just brute strength, which I don't have a lot of against a fish having brute strength. But it wasn't that challenging, and you spent a lot of time just trolling for hours on end, to hook up with one fish per day. And if there were like 4 or 5 of you on the boat, it's expensive, and it's not worth it for one fish. Plus, I like hunting them better, not hunting like boom boom. I mean hunting them like seeing where the fish are and casting at them like bonefish. And there's a fish called a permit for those of you who aren't also avid saltwater fisher people. And snook is probably my favorite kind of fish to catch, which is largely found in parts of Mexico, South America, and east and west coast of Florida, southern Florida mostly. And tarpon. That may be my favorite fish to catch. Anything from baby tarpon that are like, 5 to 10 pounds and 2 or 3 feet long up to, I think the biggest tarpon I ever caught was either 125 or 135 pounds. But I take really light tackle that most people would go like bass fishing with and go after these monster tarpon, knowing full well that most of the time they're going to break the line. But every now and then I get a big one up to the boat, after a very long fight. And it's more about finesse than it is about strength, although they will wear you out. So I was reading about Andre and all the different types of fishing you do. And man, I promise you, at some point probably in 2020, maybe 2021, I'm going fishing with you. And let's see, what else? Man, you've got a lot of credit in the fishing world. Good job on that. Cass says, my whole life is all about hooks. What kind of hooks do RCs have? Radio control or remote control? I don't know. practice your fly fishing from now, okay? Others will get pissed off talking about fishing. Oh, come on. I got to say, I've had so much fun hanging out with you guys this week. It's been a special week. The level of camaraderie has been awesome. The level of information I feel like we're giving out is good. I love hanging out with you guys. And this show has really, the happy hours have really fulfilled their original intent, which was just a place to hang every day while we're all cooped up and staying socially distant. No, I was going to make another my first wife joke, but I won't. So somebody commented, I can't remember who it was, maybe it's Peter Rahill. Somebody said something somewhere about the taxi hoodie that I had on yesterday. That's a collector's item. There's only one in the world. It was made as a sample probably around 2003, 2004, something like that. And nobody on the staff liked it. So I ended up with the sample, and I don't think I ever wore the thing, and then found it like 6 months ago. It shoved in the back of a drawer or something. And so I pulled it out and wear it every now and then. But would you guys be interested in getting some taxi hoodies? Because we can get them made and, set up a store on the website and sell you some taxi hoodies. They'll be $100 a piece. Kidding. So chime in the chat room if you're into getting a hoodie. Also, I want to mention, Cass says he's a mess. Spaceman says, still not getting notices. Sorry, I'm late. It's okay. Andre says he loves hoodies. Will wear it when I am guiding fly fishing. Cool. Especially when I come up, so we can be twins and wear them at the same time and look really ridiculous. I love hoodies too. I don't think I've worn hoodies my entire life. And about a year ago, I decided I was going to get myself a hoodie, and I couldn't think of what to get, so I ordered one that had the University of Miami thing on it, because that's where I went to college. I'm not a big, U of M, go Canes kind of guy, but I got that one in safety orange, and I loved it. And people literally stop me when I'm out in public. Well, they stop me all the time because I'm, the star of taxi TV. But anyway, I was at Disneyland and somebody walked by and went, "You!" And I went, "What?" I thought he was flipping me off at first. He went, "The U!" Huh? It's University of Miami. It's got a stylized U logo on the front for U of M. And I had no idea what the guy was talking about. I felt like such an idiot when he had to explain it to me. It was pretty funny. Do I really use the hood? I've been known to use the hood. I was in Israel in February. There were a couple times where it got quite chilly, and I remember popping up the hood. I tend to get ear infections a lot. So, yeah, if it's rainy and windy out, I'll pull the hood up. I like the pouch in the front, It's a good place to keep your stash. Like Kleenex, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that kind of stash, but Kleenex, M&Ms. Can't put your car keys or your wallet in there because they will fall out. I've tried that. Another squirrel on the patio. It's like the squirrels know when I'm doing the show. They go on the patio. This morning we had 2 squirrels in the backyard that frolicked for like an hour. It was like watching one of those shows on Animal TV or whatever it is, where they have the puppies that are just constantly rolling around and beating the crap out of each other on the floor. These 2 squirrels were cavorting. I mean, they were just like rolling and fighting and jumping. One of them actually jumped off of all 4s like a cat would do. And the thing looked like it was spring-loaded. It was hysterical. Wow, so a lot of you guys would be interested in getting hoodies. All right, we will check out making some taxi hoodies. What colors? Black, gray, white. I guess that's probably it. I don't know, me, I like safety orange. Safety orange is my favorite color. Edmund Red, hello. Lou Lewis, Greg Carosa, Patrick Adams, Chris Aguayo, Bob Gunnerfelt, how are you, buddy? Um, that's interesting. I just saw a message in there from Edmund Red being held for review, and his message was black. So I don't know what that means. I don't even want to venture a guess. Um, anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the regular Taxi TV episode that I am going to do on Monday. I'm almost sorry that the promos will be going out for it this weekend and on Monday as well, because it's going to mean a lot of work for me over the weekend. Um, it's, I've been talking about a lot on this show, but I'm going to do a full 90 minutes on writing songs for all the COVID-19 pandemic movies, TV shows, documentaries, that are going to be coming up. We've already been getting listings. We've got about 20 more listings on that subject, both instrumental and song requests that are, like in the stash right now, and we're going to start dripping those out. We don't want to start sending them all out at once, and none of the music is going to be needed for a little while anyway. Cass McKenty wants his in coral color. We need to talk. Anyway, hey, John Pearson, how are you? Hey, by the way, JP, I thought I was done with the Gophers. Hadn't seen any in like 48 hours. And sure enough, went out there this morning, and I was standing at the edge of the lawn looking down the hill at my Gopher field. And at least they didn't hit the yard today. But as I was standing there, I looked down, there were two giant piles of dirt. Now, this is dry, crumbly, loose dirt, so it wasn't that hard for the Gopher to dig around in that stuff. But oh my gosh, as I was standing there, all of a sudden a rock, I am not kidding you, a rock the size somewhere between an average sized apple and a baseball, a hard ball, got pushed out of one of the holes and rolled down the hill. So for those of you who don't know, gophers aren't that big. They're like the size of a medium-sized rat to, a larger rat, but they're not like Caddyshack-sized gophers that look like they're, 14 inches and 8 pounds. These guys, they're like, half a pound to a pound. Am I right, John? And I stood there literally with my mouth hanging open. I must have looked like a tarpon myself. What the hell kind of animal is living in that hole that it could push something bigger than my fist that had to weigh a pound easily? I mean, come on, they're just not that big. Wow, Marcus says they have huge groundhogs there. Darren Moss says, we don't get gophers in Australia, but my dad gets kangaroos in his garden. Yeah, well, I'm getting a lot of grief for killing these gophers, relocating them to a better place. I can't imagine. It is legal, isn't it, to actually shoot a kangaroo in Australia, which I can't even imagine. Although I have heard that people have had the living daylights beat out of them by a kangaroo. Wow, the groundhogs, they live in my shed. Well, so much for you will never be able to get Matt Vanderbo to come over and work in your shed because he'd have to share it with the groundhogs. Ants can lift 10 times their weight. Yeah, well, we don't have an ant problem. Okay, Lou? Right now it's a gopher problem. John says maybe a bit less weight. I don't know, but, they're like that big, right? Maybe it's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know, anywhere between 6 and 9 inches, maybe. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ray Hill says, yeah, maybe I should call them Gophinators. Gophernators? Yeah. Anyway, the show on Monday, you guys, I didn't print out the promo, but I am going to give you guys a gift from me to you. Seriously, as I was working really late last night writing this thing up, deciding what the show was going to be and writing the promo about it, I thought, wow, anybody who sees this show on Monday is going to know something or a bunch of stuff that 99.9% of all other musicians will not know. It's not just about songs about the pandemic or instrumentals about the pandemic, but we're going to analyze like how that music gets used, where it gets used, why it gets used. We're going to look at it through the lens of the screenwriters, through the director, through the producers, through the music supervisor, and through the editors. Because any or all of those people could make decisions on Vanderbo. Whoa! MVB is in the house. I was thinking about you this morning, buddy. How are you? Man, oh man, I need to call you and catch up. Anyway, I'm so excited about this show. And this morning I woke up and I started writing it, and which I've been known to spend like better parts of a weekend writing a show. And then I realized, you know what? Maybe I should just literally have like one-word bullet points, because I think I do my best work when I'm just being conversational and kind of ad-libbing. I just don't want to forget anything, but that's the whole point, is we're going to look at it through the eyes, or as I said in the promo, I was very happy with myself when I wrote that, through the lens of the screenwriter, the director, the producer, the music supervisors, the editors. It's not just I'm going to teach you guys how to anticipate, how to see through the clutter of just getting a brief or a taxi listing. You know, some of what we do at Taxi when we get listings this is maybe the best example ever, is the pandemic stuff. Probably, I don't know, a week or so before we bugged out of the office, I was in the A&R room with Tom, Eric, and Isaac, and I said to the guys, you know what? I remember after 9/11, we just got hit with a ton of members that had very emotional songs that kind of their outlet for dealing with the sadness and the frustration and the grief of 9/11. So they wrote songs about it. And frankly, most of the songs were very specific, you know, like that horrible day when you flew planes into the Twin Towers. I mean, that doesn't really work. But songs that are general with universal lyrics that talk about, you know, the loved ones you left behind, those work better. So anyway, I remembered that experience. We also, of course, got a lot of requests for music from the industry, probably starting 3 to 6 months after 9/11. So when I heard the pandemic was really becoming a thing, maybe it was the day that the president announced, or the WHO announced that it was officially a pandemic. I remember saying to the guys in the A&R room, we should get out in front of this. Let's pick half a dozen of our favorite companies that run listings with Taxi. Let's not hit everybody with this. I'd like to give a little special treat to some of our faves. And we sent them an email saying, hey, this is what happened after 9/11. Certainly this is going to be the case from the pandemic. Would you guys like us to help you get out in front of it? And we got a pretty good response. And since then, a lot of other companies have reached out to us, and they're looking for songs about, you know, light at the end of the tunnel, better days ahead, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. But I really do have a recommendation. This is going to go out in the email over the weekend, but I'm going to give you guys, because you're kind of my pet students, watch the movie Contagion this weekend. Personally, I found it to be really slow. I got about 30, 40 minutes into it and dozed off on the couch while I was watching it. So then I took my laptop upstairs, crawled into bed with the laptop, and tried to continue it. I fell sound asleep. The movie ran out while I was sleeping. And I'm not a very good sleeper, so I found that it must be really slow. But several members of the staff watched it. They all really liked it. It's kind of old. It's actually like 9 or 10-year-old movie. I think it was done in 2011. But watch Contagion. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you anything else because I don't want to give away the show on Monday. But seriously, email all your other musician friends, email all your other taxi member friends. I really want to give you guys a gift on Monday's show. So there you go. Wow, you had an earthquake? Earthquake in Idaho. Hope everybody's okay. Okay, who can name the town in America that actually, I believe, had the largest earthquake on record in the United States? It was some time ago. And then, oh, more sirens. I've been hearing sirens all day. I just found out about an hour before the show today. Somebody I've known for 35 years is in the ICU in New Jersey from the virus. That's not good. With kidney failure caused by the virus. Wow, 6.5. That's a healthy earthquake. So, Matt, did you have to change any undergarments after you experienced that? Because, man, the first one is always scary. After the first or second one, those of us who live in California, you can kind of tell within the first 5 or 10 seconds if it's the kind that you need to run for your life or jump under a table, or it's the kind where you sit on the bed, go, woo, earthquake, which is always my wife. I swear to God. Only the Northridge quake. It's because we were sleeping on a mattress on the floor. It was in 1994. We were going through we just started a company 2 years ago. We are flat broke, and we were sleeping on a mattress. We got launched. We were airborne, thrown into the air and across the bedroom, which was a 12 by 12 bedroom, if I remember correctly. And we hit the wall on the opposite side of the room with like our head and our shoulders. Matt's daughter had PTSD from the earthquake for about a week. Yeah, that'll do it, man. Yeah, after the Northridge quake, I don't think anybody in Los Angeles had a real night of sleep for months. We had aftershocks, just ridiculous amounts of aftershocks, like every 15 minutes forever. I'm scanning, sorry. For those of you who've never watched one of these shows and you're watching the archive later, if you wonder why I'm doing that, I'm reading what the guys are typing. Yeah, some friends of ours had a really nice house in Encino. Our apartment was trashed. We had to move out instantly. As soon as first light came, we moved out of that apartment, and it took them about a year to rebuild it. The walls came apart. A staircase that went up to the loft, which was kind of like our second floor, the staircase disconnected from the wall and was just like swinging like one of those, rope bridges or something. The whole loft, which was 10 feet by 10 feet, was just barely hanging on by a couple of giant bolts. So we went to our friend's house in Encino, and they gave us a spare bedroom that had a big king-size 4-poster bed that looked like, one of the knights around table. The round table should be sleeping in it. A very regal-looking bed. And it was on a parquet wood floor, and I remember the aftershocks were so bad and so frequent that about every hour or so, I had to get out of the bed and push it back to the wall. It just kept going, all night long. It was scary as crap. Yep, Bobby Borg will be on top of the hour in 36 minutes. And by the way, I couldn't sleep. I literally did not sleep for like 5 days. Not a wink of sleep, which is not healthy, but I was scared to death. So somebody had given me a book. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but this guy was a marketing guru that charged $25,000 for a Saturday, Sunday seminar, live seminar that he would do. And a friend of mine, a woman named Raleigh Pinsky, who was a publicist, was a speaker at his event. So she got his book, and the book was $600. but she was given a freebie because she was a speaker. So she loaned me that book in like 2003 or 1993 and 1994. I read that book every single night, cover to cover. And that book was the thing that got me started on being addicted to marketing books. I learned all about writing headlines and body copy and subheads and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, yeah, so I've got, out of everything bad comes some good, you know? And that's another point in Monday's show. As much as this virus is just horrifying, the fact that people are dying, you know, unless you have somebody in your family or a close friend that has died, you know, we're kind of all sheltered in place and watching on TV, and it's not as scary. But for that family I know in New Jersey with their mom, who's my age, in the ICU, you know, with kidney failure, just hanging on for dear life. Yeah, for them it's very real. Anthony Franz wants to know if the book was worth $600. Yeah, honestly, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but that book was worth $600,000, maybe $6 million. If everything that book taught me and all the things that it inspired me to go learn, I still go back and open up that guy's book at least several times every year. Taxi wouldn't be alive if not for that book. If that man, I can't remember his name. If he hadn't inspired me to learn about marketing, the company would have never survived. I thought I just had the greatest idea in the world. People would just show up. Okay, let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Somebody in one of the comments, and I really appreciate you guys going in after the show. The archive goes up a little, you know, a few minutes after we finish the live show. People have been going in and commenting, and one of the comments was more studio stories. And no, Tony Salazzo, I never returned the book to Raleigh Pinsky. I did run into her several years after that in a parking lot at somebody else's convention. I said, Raleigh, I feel terrible. I never gave you the book back. And she said, Michael, when I gave you that book, I knew I'd never see it again. So Raleigh, if you're watching, thank you. You changed my life. You changed a lot of lives, actually. Thousands of lives. Somebody asked for more studio stories. So this is a short one. If like I ever tell a short story. Bob Marley and the Wailers. How many Bob Marley fans do we have in the chat room? Apparently none. Nope, there's one. Akira Canyon, Bob Marley fan, Darren Fletcher, John Pearson, Bonzo 230. All right, so you guys are into Bob. Anthony Franz, Peter Rahill, Cass McKenty. Okay, so it was at Criteria Studios, as you guys must know by now. It's where I started my career back in 1975, I think. Wow, that was a long time ago. And I was probably a year and a half into my time there. And a friend of mine named Stephen Hart was the assistant engineer on sometimes bands would come in, they'd be in the middle of an album, they're on tour, and they needed a studio, so they would just come in for like a few days to a week or so versus parking their butts there for a month or two to do a full album. So that was the case with Bob Marley and the Wailers. And actually, Bob Marley lived about a half mile from me in South Miami. His house butted up against the McDonald's, if I remember correctly. You could like go to the drive-thru at McDonald's and see Bob Marley's backyard. Anyway, they came in, and my friend Steve Hart was the assistant on it. And I think he got sick or got put on another record, so I got called in to do 2 or 3 days with Bob and the Wailers. And I never really believed that one could get a contact high from pot. I didn't think it was a real thing. Now, I've personally never inhaled the stuff, but I remember walking in the control room, and I can't remember who the engineer was on it, saying to him, God, the room still smells like weed from yesterday. And he goes, oh yeah, you won't believe what you're about to see. And about 10 minutes later, the band members start filing in. Every one of the people in that band had their own gym bag. Remember those like little duffel bags that people used to carry around with like an Adidas logo on it or a Nike logo or whatever? Each single member of the band walked in with their very own gym bag filled with like easily a pound of weed in each one of those bags. And they would each roll up a spliff. And I'm not talking about a blunt. I'm not talking about something the size of your finger. I'm talking about something that was 10 inches long, 2 inches wide on the fat end. They used white bakery paper, which I heard when I went to Jamaica many times in my youth, was what they used to roll spliffs in Jamaica. They used that white paper that like you would go to a bakery and they would, wrap a loaf of bread in it or something. So every guy in the band's first thing they did when they walked in was park their butt in a chair or a couch or the producer's desk, anywhere they could find a horizontal surface. And those dudes each rolled up their own personal spliff because I guess one spliff wasn't enough to go around for 5 people. And they started smoking these things. I mean, you literally, it was the layer of smoke in that control room was unbelievable to see with your eyes. It didn't take 10 minutes. I was stoned as a goat, man. Like blotto, just completely stoned. And that's how I spent the next 3 days. I remember, I think it was, oh no, I know who was doing it. I think it was Alex Sadkin, who sadly was tragically killed in a car accident while working on an album in Montserrat with Simply Red. Alex, I think, went off a cliff in his Jeep Wrangler, and too bad. He was like the nicest, super handsome guy that I've ever met. He was like male. As a matter of fact, Google Alex Sadkin, Sadkin. The dude was so incredibly handsome. We used to all give him grief for it because it's like, how can you be? Nobody is that good looking and as nice as you are. He was like the sweetest, nicest, kindest, mellowest guy. Anyway, Sadkin, we just looked at each other, just started laughing uncontrollably. We couldn't stop it. So that's how we spent the next 3 days together in that control room. We will write you a song. Marcus says, goats have the best weed. Could you imagine goats turned loose in a field of pot, eating it? And there you go. Little goat poop pellets stick in a bong. I don't know. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. They probably frown on that type of discussion. So let's change the subject. I think I've covered everything. Do you guys have any, general Q&A that we can chat about, or any stories you want to tell that we can pass the time with before I make this phone call to Bobby Borg at exactly 5 p.m. and I don't blow it? Michael, what's the worst advice you see being dispensed to people trying to get into the music industry? My least favorite one, because it's very personal to me, is don't pay anybody to listen to your music, which is really a poorly adapted version of don't pay anybody to publish your music. That's where the phrase originally started, because there were publishers, there were song sharks say, give me $500 and I'll publish your song. And people have been throwing that in my face and Taxi's face forever. But you guys know, you get way more bang for your buck, tremendous value out of Taxi, and we offer 100% money back guarantee. So anyway, that's the one that pisses me off, the worst advice. Second worst advice, certainly in the light of film and TV music licensing, is never give up your publishing. Just got an email, which I don't think I've answered yet, forwarded to me by Liz at Member Services, Taxi Member Services. A woman saying, wow, I just joined Taxi, and I got this offer and they want 100% of my publishing. And I reached out to my music attorney and he said, absolutely not. I wouldn't walk away from that deal. I'd run away from that deal. Well, that's because 99.9% of music attorneys don't know anything about the world of music licensing, short of, licensing something from a major label level act written, a song written by a hit songwriter. They don't understand how music libraries work. They don't understand. They've never given any thought to where does that instrumental music come from on the Kardashians. They probably think that each one of those cues, costs $100,000 or something. Okay, now you guys in the chat room are talking about stuff I don't want to mention because I want to get kicked off of YouTube. Any other questions? Yes, I want to know the best app or website to organize your music library besides SoundCloud and the regular ones. What is everybody else using? Is the Taxi Music profile only for Taxi submissions? For as much forethought and planning as we put into building out the new website, we never thought about that. I guess you could put music from other stuff up there. I don't see why not. If you really want to organize your stuff super well, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I always draw a blank. What is Keith LeBrant's software called? I know you guys know. Composer Catalog. John Pearson talked about it. Yeah, Composer Catalog is really, really comprehensive. People say that it's really easy to use. I think that's because Keith LeBrant is one of you guys, and he's also a programmer. So it was built by a programmer, built by a musician for musicians. And it's inexpensive, and I've never heard anything but great stuff about it. Is there a roadmap for understanding the whole music biz as you see it? No. John Pearson says he won a copy of Composer Catalog at the Road Rally and he loves it. Ariana, can you please put up a link to composercatalog.com? Disco, they were actually a sponsor of the Road Rally 2 years ago. We like those guys a lot. And frankly, Disco serves a little bit of a different purpose, but covers many of the same things as Composer Catalog. And we use Disco at Taxi for all of your music that we send out to the industry goes out via Disco. Cass says he's as organized as confetti in a hurricane. Yeah, it sounds like the desktop of my computer. Whoa, hang on a second. What did that say? Michael, do you have a quote you live your life by or think of often? Yeah, do unto others. There are many, many, many that I think of and try to live my life by, but do unto others. I've mentioned this before. I hate to be redundant, but it's worth repeating. When anybody new gets hired at Taxi on their first day, I bring them, down to my office and I tell them it's actually printed in a document that we have that all employees get. And the document says, always do the right thing. And if you don't know what the right thing is, come and ask me. So there you go. Whoops. Marcus's thing was kick ass, take names, but YouTube was holding it back. Matt Vanderpoel's motto is stay away from crazy women. Yeah, well, a little late for that, MVB. I don't want to get into it, but yeah, Matt has a bad track record with crazy women. That's all we can say. But look, you have a lovely daughter. I know you cherish her like more than your own life, so something good comes from everything bad, Matt. How's the new house, by the way? Is it weird making music not sitting in a shed? Dean or Dale Markley wants to know, if I submit a song to one of your listings and get approached directly by a music supervisor offering a licensing deal on that specific song, am I prohibited from responding to him or her? No, not at all. People often ask the question, when I submit something to Taxi, how long do I have to wait before I can submit it again? I don't know, how long would it take you to click the button to submit it again? You want to get your music out there to as many people in as many places as you possibly can. And not until you have watched the ink dry on a deal from somebody do you stop submitting it elsewhere. There you go. Jim Stamper says, now you tell me. No, seriously, submit everywhere. Just because even if somebody expresses interest, keep submitting it because they may not get off the dime fast enough, or they may change their mind. Forever wants to know, what year was Shortcuts to Hit Songwriting? 126 proven techniques for writing songs that sell. What year was that published? Hang on, I will tell you. I think it's been like 10 years. It was published, in 2008. And here's something notable. For those of you who don't know, Robin Fredrick, I am the publisher of that book, by the way, and yes, I do make a little bit of money. But Robin Fredrick did a revised version of that book, and it actually turned an ebook revision that just came out a few months ago. I think it came out in October of 2019 because people kept asking for the ebook forever, and Robin was really hesitant to put an ebook out there because people tend to copy them and spread them around like a virus. Anyway, she did a 3-level version. So bottom line is, for $9.99 each, you get these 3 books for $30 in the ebook versions, and it's level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is for beginners, level 2 is for intermediates, obviously, and level 3 is for advanced. So basically what she did an incredibly dramatic and exhaustive expansion of the original book. A lot of times people do revisions and they're not that good. Actually, Bobby Borg just did revisions of his books, and I've been thumbing through them getting ready to do the show today, and I'm really impressed. But Bobby's a little OCD in a good way, healthy OCD. So when he takes on a project, man, he's like super focused and really did a good job in his revisions. Hey, Espen. I brought Espen, Matt's daughter, a Minnie Mouse when I went to visit them in Idaho, I don't know, some months ago. I flew out there to do a show from Matt's shack and met his daughter for the first time, she's delightful. So, hi, Espen. Good to see you. Or good to be seen by you, I guess is the appropriate thing to say. So, what else can I say about Robin's books other than, what makes them, besides the fact that they're exhaustive, it's 900 pages of Robin Fredrick for $30 in total. You can't really beat that. I mean, the original book was like 300 pages for $36. So it's a bargain. And she updated, her main, I think, reason for wanting to do the revisions was she needed to update the references in the books. And she did. And she just did such a great job on them. And so, yeah, even if you've got the original book, buy levels 2 and, well, you know what? Buy all 3 levels. Come on. Everybody, even in these troubling times, everybody's got $30. Just don't suck down Starbucks for a week and you'll be fine. You got it covered. But just go check it out. Exhaustive is the only word I can say. Just mind-blowingly good. ML, about your marketing book, is it still relevant today? I thought marketing changes daily. Akira Cannon says that. Marketing does change daily, but good headlines, good copywriting. Copywriting is so important. That stuff really never changes. It's adaptable to different forms. Copywriting for subject lines is different than copywriting for headlines. Copywriting for an email body copy is different than writing copy for a web page. But it all goes back to the rudiments of good copywriting. And by the way, if you want to see, if I can pat myself on the back just a little bit, I was up till past 1 o'clock in the morning, I think last night. I think it was that late. I don't know. It was late. Working on the email that you will get in your boxes Sunday about Monday's Taxi TV. And I remember when I finished writing it, I probably spent 2 hours writing that piece. And when I finished, I thought to myself, that was worth 2 hours. This came out really good. And there are a lot of little skills. It's like crafting a good instrumental cue. It's like crafting a great song. It's like crafting a great title for a song or an instrumental cue. There are certain rudiments that will always be the foundational bedrock, I think, of any type of writing, probably any type of art. Come on, you couldn't do modern art. You couldn't be the next Picasso just by, slathering some paint on a canvas. Go, wow, check that out. Sometimes modern art may look like that, but people who really know modern art would see the craft. You've got to learn the rules in order to break the rules. The things about marketing that change on a daily basis are generational to some extent, because younger people use different types of media to absorb their content. So you have to learn to adapt to those things. But the basics are still extremely valuable. I see lots of people who send out tweets every day. They, update their Instagram page every day, Facebook posts, TikToks, using all the social media they can. But the stuff they're putting out there is crap. It doesn't keep you engaged. So yeah, all those tools are out there. They're all free. They're all wonderful. But if you don't know how to engage people on each of those different platforms, and they are all different, you're not going to have tremendous success. But foundational copywriting and understanding the root of all marketing is the person reading it or hearing it or seeing it. You've got to answer the age-old question for them, which is, what's in it for me? Think about that. Every time you tweet something, every time you put something out on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, don't talk about what you want to tell people. Talk about what they will enjoy. What's the benefit? Benefit, not features. Yeah, this car's got power steering, it's got power brakes, it's got this, it's got that. Well, that's all great. What I really want to know is it badass? Does it go really fast? Does it stop on a dime? So tell me what the benefits are for me, the driver. People only steal what makes tons of money. I'm sorry I missed the stuff that preceded that. Michael, what do you think of SongGuard for protecting your copyright? I can't be unbiased because Barry Dvorzan, who's the owner of SongGuard, is a close friend of mine. We get along really, really well. We've known each other for 20 years or something. I adore him. As Barry would be the first to tell you, you can't march into a courtroom and go, look, Your Honor, I registered this song on SongGuard. It doesn't replace registering. You own the copyright at the moment of creation, okay? But you have to register the copyright with the Library of Congress. That's the thing you need to go into a lawsuit and come out a winner. SongGuard is part of that, but it's not all of that. So you should do both. Honestly, go to the SongGuard website and read up, and because they say it much more articulately. Isn't that funny? I can't articulate the word articulate. Well, whatever. Ricky Allen says, I have a good question, but I think it needs to wait for another show. 10 minutes till Bobby Borg, just looking at the clock. I've got 10 minutes. You want to ask the question now? Michael, what is something you've changed in your mind about in the last few years and why? Man, oh man. The media. I am disgusted by the media. Probably back in the day of Bill Clinton being president, I watched CNN all the time. Whenever CNN rolled out, I've always watched CNN. And then I started watching Fox News, I think, during the OJ trial, and now. So the bottom line is, and I don't want to sound partisan on this, because I won't speak of that stuff. And frankly, I've voted for both parties, so I can say I am truly an independent. However, the media, I used to just believe it because it was CNN, it was NBC, it was CBS, ABC, whatever. And I just believed it because I thought they had journalistic standards. They do not. They are literally like controlling the outcome of humanity. And if you want to get on board with what I've noticed, watch every day. I am a news hound, I will tell you that many nights I will watch and watch the top of the hour on CNN, watch the first 10 minutes of the top of the hour on MSNBC, watch the first 10 minutes top of the hour on Fox News. If you get One America News or Newsmax, watch those things and see the differences. What really upsets me, and this is CNN in particular, is that they will just leave stuff out because it doesn't go along with their political agenda. I don't need my news outlets telling me what I should not be made aware of because it doesn't meet with their obvious political agenda. And that cuts both ways, both Democrat, Republican. Like I said, I'm an independent. Cass says, watch Michael get banned from YouTube now. I'm trying to be even-handed about this. I just found out last night, I took a break from working while I was eating dinner and found out that, the daily briefings that President Trump is doing, and I think it's great that he's doing that. You may like him, you may not like him. He has plenty of moments where you sit there and go, oh boy. But those briefings are valuable. The other people hitting the stage are extremely valuable. It's real, it's transparency. They're doing them live. So I found out last night that CNN is really pissed off at him. They feel like he's using that as a political platform, because he can't go out and do his big gatherings in stadiums and such. Honestly, he pats his own back a lot during those things, but I don't feel that they're all that political. And the information that's coming out of his mouth, as well as the mouths of Anthony Fauci and Dr. Birx, that stuff's all stuff we all want to know. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or you're a Martian. If you are living on this planet at this time, you want to know that stuff. And I found out that CNN is now cutting away and going back to their talking heads in the middle of these things. Whenever they start talking about stuff that CNN doesn't want you to know, they cut away. That's not what I want from a news outlet. So I hope that answers your question, Darren, that I've changed my opinion. I used to watch, Walter Cronkite and people like that back in the day, and I felt like they were a rock. If it was coming out of their mouth, it was believable. They had journalistic standards. Maybe Twitter has changed all that. Maybe the race to be first to get something on the news has changed all that. Man, oh man, alive. Verify everything. If you hear anything, don't just assume. No matter which network you're on, don't assume that it's true. Go online and do your best to cut through the crap and find out if it is in fact a fact. All right, we got 5 minutes. Yeah, 24-hour news is certainly changing. Yeah, they're all in a race, and I understand they got a lot of hours to fill. Michael Sparty says, I lived for 60 minutes every Sunday night dinner back in the day. Yeah. Oh, man, I could do a 90-minute show on how pissed off I am at the media. I just wish, hey, Steimel, how are you, buddy? Yeah, I used to be an avid PBS watcher, and then I found out that they've fallen into the same trap as everybody else. It's just mind-blowing to me how, it's one thing if you're watching an hour on any of those networks, and it's an opinion show. That's fine. It's an opinion show, and you know that. But when they're cutting away from a straight news thing that every American wants to see, should be seeing at a time like this, and they're cutting away from it, that's, what do they call that? Some form of propaganda. I mean, it's, what do they call it when people burn books? There's a word for it. Can't think of it. Well, yeah, Ricky Allen says the New York Times hid the Holocaust for years from the American people. Absolutely. Fahrenheit 451. Maria Risotto says suppression. Censorship. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Yeah. When a supposed news outlet that's supposed to give you this unbiased reporting that you take into your life and run your life with, at least, to some extent, certainly during times like this, they're censoring it. When they turn off a live daily update, yeah. Anyway, I should get off my soapbox about that. Ray Hill says CNN sponsorship. I can't really pronounce that. Censorship by omission. Yeah, it is. It's criminal. The media is supposed to be the fourth estate. It is supposed to be keeping government honest, when in fact, media is trying to control government. It's trying to tell us who we should vote for. And again, if it's a show, where somebody is a talking head that's doing an opinion show, fine. It's an opinion show. You can watch it or not watch it. But during the straight news, that's what I've got the issue with. Cass says it's 5 o'clock. I've got 4:58. Tony Salazzo wants to know, I'm curious about if people are doing taxi submissions on CDs. A very small portion of our members do it on CD. You know what? I've got to get something. I'll be right back. Okay, that's my little thing that I put my phone on so it's close to the microphone. 4:59, 1 minute till Bobby Borg. Blasting off with Bobby Borg. TJ says, all I want to hear is who, what, why, where, and when. Then who is big. Give me a name. Not sources say. Oh, man. Sources say. CNN should change its name to Sources Say. I used to love CNN. $4.59 and counting. My Zoom is cloudy. Oh, it's not Zoom, but yeah, I've got to sit down and look at the instructions for the camera. 5 o'clock. Okay, I'm calling Borg. Bobby, if you're watching, man. Okay, calling Borg now. Oh, one of my daughters called me. Keypad, there we go. 4 016. Yeah. I should just give out his number.
Bobby Borg speaking.
Michael Lasco speaking, and I didn't forget you today.
All right.
How are you, Bobby?
Awesome.
How's it going? Good. We got a room full of people. It's a lively discussion. Again, my apologies for the other day. It's extremely rare that I blow an appointment, but I definitely messed that one up the other day. So anyway, everybody meet my friend Bobby Borg on the phone. Bobby was a taxi screener for many years. He was also a drummer in the band Warrant. He knows about touring. He knows about marketing. He's got a master's. Is your master's degree is in marketing, right?
It's actually communications management, which involves marketing and PR and everything else.
Okay, good. So,
yeah.
And he is a professor. He's taught at UCLA Musicians Institute. He's doing online courses right now because of social distancing. He's a world-class expert, and as I've mentioned on yesterday's show, he's also the author of many books, but these two, Business Basics for Musicians and Music Marketing for the DIY Musician. He's just come out with very recently second editions, updated editions of these books. I got to tell you, this one's a beast. Music Marketing for the DIY Musician. This thing weighs more than the gophers in my backyard. We've been.
Yeah, that one. I just picking it up makes me go. Wow, how did I find the time to do all this?
I don't know, but it's got like 420 pages in this book, and
it's pretty intense.
It is.
A good portion of that is our sample marketing plans in the back. So there's a number of different marketing plans based on whatever you are. If you're a studio session musician, or if you're a band, or if you're a solo artist, or if you're a production company. So I kind of modeled a number of different marketing plans and put them in the back there. So that took up some space.
And I like the fact that you put the marketing plans out there because, as I've discussed with the guys in the chat room this week, in particular on this show, on our daily Quarantini hangout or happy hour, we had a gentleman on the show yesterday talking about music, social media marketing specifically. Marketing is something that many, many, many musicians are averse to because they feel like it's dirty or slimy. Can you tell them why marketing is so key and why it's not dirty and slimy?
Well, because if you are, if you're not selling, then you're a hobby. I mean, end of story, So if you want to be a hobbyist, that's fine. I mean, if you just enjoy making music and it doesn't really matter to you whether or not anybody ever listens to it or anyone ever purchases it. And when I say purchase it, I don't mean necessarily literally buy a CD or, but it could be, streaming, it could be coming to your show, it could be buying your merch, it could be any of those things associated with any income that comes from your musical career. If you're not selling, you're just a hobby. So it really depends on whether or not, you want to be a business. And if you want to be a business, then you've got to understand marketing. End of story. There's no other way to look at it.
I've known you long enough and well enough that I'm sure you agree with this, which is if you're selling something that you put your heart and soul into and you love it, then others will love it. You're not being slimy if you're turning them on to something that they will enjoy. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so, so first we have to establish that selling is important. Now let's tackle the slimy part, which was originally your question. So let's get to that now. So, are there slimy salesmen out there? Yes, and my definition of a slimy salesman is somebody that sells you something that they truly don't believe is going to enhance your life in any way. And in fact, maybe it's even a poor quality product that's going to, break down when you go around the corner. Someone selling that kind of work is obviously, I think, where we get a sleazy reputation. But if you are selling something that you're passionate about and that you truly believe is going to enhance people's lives in some way or fashion, then why shouldn't you put yourself out there and say, hey, I think that this is going to enhance your life in some way. This is going to better the world in some way. And I'm not afraid to say, hey, I would be honored if you check this out, or can I win your business over? It really, I think ultimately the delivery is what's really, really ultimately important, because nobody likes a hard sale. No one likes to be cracked over the head and says, buy this. And no one likes to be led down the path where they feel that they're being sold, and then boom, here comes the sales pitch. No one likes that. So ultimately, I think in the best case scenario, it's creating a brand that that stands for integrity and pride and quality, and then allowing people to make the right decisions for themselves based on the information that you provide to them, essentially. So, you're not sitting there banging them over the head trying to convince them to do it. You're showing proof and social proof that, hey, this product is worth something, it can better your life, and look at all the other people's lives it's bettering. And then people can make the decision for themselves, But we have to put those things into place and not be afraid to put those things into place. Otherwise, if you don't ask for it, sometimes people will think that, you're not sort of selling, so to speak, or you're not interested in them checking it out. So you got to say, hey, yeah, absolutely,
So let's apply this to something that I've noticed literally since we were all sent to our homes recently. All of a sudden, everybody's doing everything online, myself included, but I've been doing it for 10 years. But people are streaming all kinds of courses out there. Literally 5 to 10 times a day, I'm getting emails from some people I've never even heard of that are all pitching me and everybody else probably watching the show today on why we should watch their streamed course right now. So what is it that we have taxi members that are actually quite learned on topics about licensing music and touring, like the guy yesterday. What can they do to differentiate their streamed course from everybody else's with this onslaught of everybody's pitching stream this, stream that? What can they do?
Right. So that's obviously a very, very important question. Differentiation is probably one of the biggest takeaways that you guys should get. Just that word alone, because that should be what you strive for. So now what we could discuss is maybe some of the different ways that you can differentiate yourself from others with live performances. And the first step of the game would be obviously to do as much research as you possibly can. So I would spend a good couple days going out there and seeing some of the different live stream concerts that are happening, and just take a look at like how they're presenting it, just even the room itself that they're presenting it in. What kind of vibe does it have? What kind of atmosphere? I've seen everything from people doing it into their living room to actually people that were even streaming from clubs that specifically opened so that they can do the streaming show from a stage of a real club. I know that's a little bit more difficult to do, but I've seen sort of it span from literally living rooms to like clubs that have opened to allow for just the live stream show without obviously a crowd. So, take a look at that. Also, then take a look at the engagement that happens between the audience and the band. Are you just playing and and just going through one song to the other? Are you actually doing anything like what might happen in a real concert, like sing-alongs, getting the audience to sing along with you? Are you allowing what kind of talking are you doing in between your obviously your songs? Are you allowing fans to actually type in maybe requests, things of this nature? Are you doing any kind of maybe raffles or giveaways during the event or after the event, or all throughout the event to get people to stick around? Maybe some sort of raffle or code number that they enter into, and and people win prizes, and then I guess at some point you mail it out to them or something of that nature. Just, anything. I've seen some really interesting things like this, and anything that you can do that, again, is going to make your show a little bit different than the other person's. The only problem, though, and this brings us to another question, if you don't mind me kind of segueing directly in.
Go for it.
Is one of the biggest things, I think, and I think, now, in all fairness, one of the reasons why a lot of people are live streaming right now is because of the situation that a lot of musicians are finding themselves in. And that is, now they don't have a way to make money.
Right.
I've literally known musicians that all they do is play, and tours are canceled, and they're like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. So for those people that are trying to do live concerts and, to kind of make money, my heart goes out to them. However, everyone is just chasing the leader now. And a big part of marketing is what's called opportunity. And there were people that were already jumping on this when we were first hearing about it in China. And they were like, I bet you this is going to come here. And if it comes here, what is it going to do? And what can I do to deal with that? So you're already thinking in advance. This is the sort of the innovator thinker, right?
Yeah.
And I remember there were people that started doing live concerts back in January. And that, I hate to say, is when really everybody sort of started kind of trying to adapt it. Now, unfortunately, we have everyone and their mom, doing live concerts or streaming concerts. And it's just sort of, I get the same thing, Michael. I have, I don't know, 20 requests on my Facebook to join their live stream.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not suggesting that you don't live stream. I'm just trying to say that a big part of marketing is also finding opportunity and trying not to always chase the leader, trying to be the leader if possible. So...
I'm actually starting a rap group. You guys don't know about this. I haven't gone public with it yet, but I'm starting a rap group called the Wuhan Clan, and I'm hoping it goes viral.
Okay. Nice.
I came up with that all by myself.
Yeah. And also on that note, I also want to point out too, is that what I think, we're going to get through this. We got to think positively, and we're going to get through this at some point. God willing, we'll get through this. But I would also be thinking about what is going to be happening after. What are some of the opportunities potentially that we could start already looking into, so that when all of this sort of, we figure out how we can also all get into one room again. What is going to be happening? What sort of opportunities are going to exist? I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of festivals, a lot of performances, a lot of people wanting to party, a lot of people wanting to go out. Could this be an opportunity to maybe get an edge or ahead of the competition in some way? A lot of people had local gigs and restaurants and things like that they lost. And maybe I know one particular person that had a house gig right on Sunset Boulevard, and he said, screw it, and went back to California. This could be an opportunity. Went back to Kansas, I beg your pardon. This could be an opportunity for you, to maybe, jump in and be the person that takes over that gig. So, you have to think in this way. So,
I'm doing a show on Monday's regular edition of Taxi TV, all about getting out in front of all the TV shows that are going into production. They're being written right now as we speak. They've been getting written for the last 30 days about the virus. Movies are going to come out like Contagion, TV shows, documentaries, news specials. All this stuff is going to need music. So I'm doing an entire 90-minute show on Monday to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to not just say, hey, this stuff is coming, because I've already said that, but for musicians to think about what's coming, to get out in front of it, to think analytically, and take advantage of these situations. So I completely agree with you. You're 100% right. And that musicians think it's just about creativity oftentimes. And it's more than that. You have to have a bit of a business brain. You have to have a bit of a marketing brain. You have to apply strategy to your music career. And that's one of the things that I notice pops up very frequently in your books is strategy. It's not just theory. You are actually laying out some strategic stuff. So I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It does get into a lot of the core principles of business strategy, and it tries to get people to actually think more strategically rather than, a lot of times people like those, 10 tips to improve your TikTok marketing and stuff like that. And the problem with that kind of thing is that oftentimes the really deep and rich strategic rules don't change, but oftentimes the tools do change, and you have these different tools that come in and out, and all we're doing is just trying to learn tools, and sometimes a tool might not even be right for us. It doesn't fit our target demographic audience. It doesn't attract the right people. So we can't really just run around chasing tools. We also have to know the rules. And as you pointed out eloquently, innovation and strategy is a big part of this. And on the note of music publishing, I was talking to one of my partners that we work together in a class at UCLA called Intro to Music Publishing. Michael Ames,
I love
he owns
Michael.
Penn Music Group.
Yeah.
And he told me that during the virus right now, actually, interestingly enough, because people are staying home more, watching more television, on the internet more, that advertising is really sort of booming right now in the publishing world. And television production and movie production is obviously down. But as you pointed out, what is going to happen after this all sort of, whatever is going to happen, kind of starts to loosen up a little bit? There's going to be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, an explosion of productions being made.
And this is what people need to prepare for. So again, I love the idea that people are doing live performances and they're trying to jump on the whole streaming thing. But also now might be a really, really good time to build up your repertoire of material and get things that you wanted to get recorded, and focus on that stuff too. Instead of just chasing sort of the leader in the streaming live kind of world, so to speak.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about something you and I have touched on in a phone conversation or an email exchange a couple of weeks ago, and we never really fleshed out the whole thing. You mentioned, and you talk in the books, specifically in the orange one, as I call it, Business Basics, you talk about things that musicians can write off on their taxes because musicians are, in fact, independent business owners. And we've had a law that I think many of the people watching the show today that got passed in California went into effect on January 1st of 2020, and it's called AB5, Assembly Bill 5, which basically makes it nearly impossible, and I'm talking really nearly impossible, for musicians to be independent contractors anymore, in the state of California. And this will spread to other states. It was originally... came from a woman, an assembly person, Lorena, I can't remember her last name, in the San Diego area, and she's a big advocate of labor unions. So she passed this law wanting to make sure that everybody was getting paid for their work and getting the benefits of being an employee. So she got this bill on the governor's desk, and he signed it, and it was largely targeted at like Uber drivers. But they didn't think about musicians in many other fields, but you and I are music people, so let's talk about the musical aspect.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that has come about because of this is there's a place in LA called the Hotel Cafe. Almost any performing songwriter or small band knows about this place. It's a club that its primary thing that it does really is put music in front of you, but they also serve food and drinks. So if Bobby is a singer-songwriter, and he's going to play at the Hotel Cafe Saturday night, he now has to get hired and become an employee of the Hotel Cafe. If you can believe that, because last week, or before this law was passed, he was an independent contractor and filed a 1099 at the end of the year. So now Bobby becomes an employee of the Hotel Cafe. And if Bobby calls me up and goes, "Yo, Lasco, I want you to come down and play bass with me on this show I'm doing Saturday night," I have to become an employee of Bobby's. So that really ruins the ability for at least California musicians to take these tax deductions that you so eloquently lay out in the book.
Right.
Yeah, talk about the kind for the people in the other 49 states that haven't been hit with this yet, which is a virus of its own, I fear. What are some of the things that they can deduct from their taxes that they may not even be thinking of?
Right. Well, so thank you, for the introduction to this, because it's very important, obviously. And one of the decisions I had to make when I wrote the book and was in the process of editing it was, all right, so do I take one state, California, and basically write it about that, or do I write it about pretty much, the rest of the United States, and then mention that, laws will differ depending on your state? It's sort of in a very clever sort of way trying to kind of get around the whole AB5 thing. And the reason why I decided to do that was because California is one state, and it is arguably the entertainment capital of the world, but still obviously there's musicians all over the United States. So I decided to just say, let's talk about it from the perspective of the way it has been and the way it is in most states. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't get into other states as well, and just take it from there. So, California aside, as an independent contractor, when you're hired to play with somebody, there's a number of different things that you can write off when you're treated as a freelance musician. And where you're, as you pointed out, you get a 1099 at the end of the year, and now you can write off a variety of different things, such as if I'm a professional drummer, I could write off the cost of my drums, sticks. I could write off the drums, my drum skins. I could write off the pedals. I could write off the whole drum set. I can write off the manuscript paper that I buy to transcribe the songs. I could write off if I went and bought some used CD because I had to learn the tracks. I could write that off. If I go to a movie to watch the movie, I can write off the cost of the movie because I say that I'm actually doing research to improve my film scoring techniques, let's just say, for example. If you go into the studio to record your record, you can write off the cost of your studio. Or your actually recording session. So there's just numerous things that go down a list. You can write off your own accountant that you hire to help you with your taxes at the end of the year. And unfortunately, all of these things that we were able to write off, now we're not able to write off in California because as an employee, you are not sort of granted as many opportunities. I mean, of course, this is dependent on your accountant, and I am not an accountant, so please refer to your accountant. But generally speaking, it's going to be harder, let's just say that, to write these things off than it used to be. And this presents sort of a major problem. Now, there's a benefit, well, kind of a benefit, okay? The benefit is obviously when you're treated like an employee, there's certain benefits to be treated like an employee, and that is, as a musician, if I'm hired by somebody, now they're going to be taking taxes out of my paycheck, which kind of in a way is sort of a forced payment plan.
Right.
Because if I wait until the end of the year and then all of a sudden the government says I owe $4,000 in taxes because I wasn't paying quarterly, because I wasn't on top of my game, where am I going to get $4,000? But an employer is going to sort of pay as you go, kind of, to the government, and then I have the right to see if I can get some of that back at the end of the year. So there's a forced payment plan. The second thing is that you are going to be, as an employer, they might have to get what's called workers' compensation insurance for you. So if you're out doing something and you get hurt, that might mean that it's going to be covered. And if you think, oh, I won't get hurt, well, you're talking to someone that almost died as a result of being out on the road. I actually got hit by a truck and got a pulmonary embolism and was in the hospital for 3 weeks and on Coumadin blood thinners for 6 months.
Wow.
With $70,000 bills. Yeah, and it was all paid for by workers' compensation. Plus, they paid me a disability insurance while I wasn't working of X number of dollars every week, or every month rather, every 2 weeks. So, that's a really big benefit because you never know when shit happens, right?
Yeah.
The third benefit is that some touring is called seasonal work. So if, let's just say, for example, you do a tour and then you come off the tour, there was one point in my life, and I'm not proud to sort of announce it, But there was one point in my life where I actually filed for state unemployment benefits. So now as a worker, you're entitled to state unemployment benefits, whereas a freelance musician, you're not. So I don't know if you look at that as a benefit. Like if you're not working, you could maybe get money. But hey, it's better than saying, hey, if you're not working, you're not going to get any money, right? So personally, all the people that I've spoke to think that the AB5 rule is the most ridiculous thing that has ever been written, because it just didn't factor musicians into the equation. And there's a lot of lobbyist groups that are trying to knock it out. And we don't know whether or not it will or not. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. Uber tried to knock it out. They couldn't. They didn't win. And I know that there are other groups that are trying to knock it out. They haven't won. So whether or not musicians will be successful, who knows? But it's a pretty crazy situation. But if you're not from California, you're okay.
Here's how ridiculous it is for us at Taxi. Is our screeners for 28 years have been independent contractors. We've been audited by the IRS and we passed. We got audited by the EDD, which is kind of like the state version of the IRS. They're really tougher than the IRS. We passed that audit as well. And now along comes AB5. So we've got screeners. Every single one of our screeners has multiple streams of income. They could be a guitar teacher. They could play guitar on the road with a couple of famous acts. They produce music. They, do all these different things. And now they have to become an employee from each of those entities, multiple entities. And so for Taxi's purposes, we've got some screeners that have been with us for a number of years. Maybe they were working, 20, 30 hours a week for us 10 years ago. And now they rarely come in, but they like us. They like coming back and screening. So they're out on the road for 9 months. They come back for 2 weeks. They come in and they screen for 2 days. And now we've got to make them a part-time employee, even though we only see them once or twice a year for a few days at a time.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
And that means more accounting for you. It also means that you have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on their behalf, right? And you have to withdraw their part, and then you have to match it. You have to probably get them workers' compensation insurance now, probably too,
all
right?
that
I would
stuff.
assume.
Yeah, all this stuff is going to cost me personally about $70,000 a year. And frankly, I don't mind the cost, and I do like I can't say I don't mind the cost, but I understand it. And I like the fact that these guys can collect unemployment, but how do they collect unemployment if they're employed by 4 or 5 different entities?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we have one guy who's a drummer in Frankie Valli's band. He produces music that's in music libraries. Another guy that is a partner in a couple of libraries, is also like does several things, a musicologist. So do they have, yes, they have to become an employee of several entities. And so if they go through a stretch of no work for a week and they want to file for unemployment, do all those different entities, it's confusing. It's mind-blowing. They couldn't think of everything when they wrote the bill, but it's, as a politician...
They didn't think it through.
There are all these unintended consequences, and now that they passed it, they don't want to back off on it.
Right.
So I know...
You know what's important? What's very important about the conversation that we're having, you guys, is that when music is music, right? And music is beautiful, music is art, but making money from it is a very serious business. It's not called the music, it's called the music business.
Right.
And, the stuff that we're talking about, this isn't why I started playing drums. I didn't sit in the cellar at 6 years old and go, workers' compensation insurance, unemployment benefits. This is stuff that came out of necessity as I became a professional. And unfortunately, you cannot exist without it, and that's why I made this my new career, because I got to a certain part of my career where I felt very blessed that I'd gotten to the point I'd gotten, but I started to become more passionate about educating young musicians about the business of music, and that, of course, sprung the whole 5 or 6 books and teaching at, USC Thornton and UCLA and Musicians Institute and, consulting and things like that. I'm the metaphor I use is I used to be the football player and now I'm the coach on the sideline,
Right.
So I'm still in the game just from another perspective. And And I enjoy that because a lot of people don't get it, you know.
You're a great teacher, man. You were born to teach. You were born to write. Excuse me. Somebody in the chat room asked, out of all of Bobby Borg's books, which one should I read first?
So the difference, okay, so the two books that are out right now, so I wouldn't recommend reading the books from the past, obviously, because Musician's Handbook was the first book in 2003, then it was revised in 2008. But because the business changes so much, I would say that really the choice is going to be between Business Basics for Musicians, second edition, and Music Marketing for the DIY Musician, second edition. And the differences between the two is that music marketing teaches you sort of how to get there, how to make it, you know, how to really analyze what your vision is and think about what your brand is and how to promote yourself. And then Business Basics for Musicians focuses a lot on the deals and dollars of what happens maybe, you know, as you're making it, you know, like the management agreements, agent agreements, record deals, production deals, music publishing deals, licensing agreements, you know, tour deals, merchandising deals. So it's like the pink one is making it and the orange one is sort of managing it, you know,
right.
if I have to simplify for you. So
I love the colors, by the way.
Are.
I love the colors of your books. I'm a marketing nut, so I think about things like colors. You know, it's all part of the deal. And you use two great colors for these books. One last question, because I know you got to run and you're actually doing another class or something in a couple of minutes. But and I'm sorry to spring this one on you because I think it's a tough question to answer. But somebody posted it in the comment section under one of our YouTube videos yesterday, and that is, ask Bobby what he would recommend for marketing. What's a marketing strategy for musicians who create music for licensing for media? Which is, you know, everybody talks about marketing for touring musicians, marketing for people trying to sell their music. What about people who are in the music, composers especially, who are in the music licensing game? Is there any form of marketing that really works for them? I'm not sure, but I would love your take on that.
Well, sure. I mean, keep in mind that marketing is very broad. When people think of marketing, they always think of promotion, but a big element of marketing, obviously, is understanding who, you know, your target audience is as well. And if we're creating music for media such as film and television, or let's just say advertisements, essentially, you know, the problem I have found with people is that they want to go from zero to hero. So they want to go from zero to like the placement in the Superman film or something of that nature. But why not start? I know this might sound like an answer they've heard before, but why not start by actually either going to a college film school and actually hooking up with some really talented student that's up and coming and has got this great project, a documentary or something, because that documentary is going to be seen by the teacher, it's going to be seen in a film festival, and it can move you up sort of the ladder, so to speak. Or why don't you go to a film festival, and why don't you actually network with the people that are there? So there was a group called Mayfair, one of my students, that actually did just this. They went to Sundance, they were hanging out, they started jamming in the lobby where everyone congregates after big conventions, drinking and things like that. And somebody saw them play and said, will you play our party, our company party? They played the company party. There was a director there. The director asked them to put a piece of music in a major motion picture film. You know, so I would say one of the things is to think about, you know, how you can get your music to the people that are going to end up using it in not such a direct way. I have a saying that is, instead of knocking on front doors, go around and check to see if some back windows are open, you know? Another technique I used with music and media is when I was at Berkeley, I actually wrote a commercial for a local business that I know was family owned. So we literally wrote the jingle, recorded it, brought it to him, and said, look, we know that you do a lot of advertising on BCN. Would you be interested actually in using this piece for your commercial? And we'll do it like for free. We just want the exposure and the credit. And actually the next couple of weeks after that, I'm driving down the street in Boston, and boom, I'm hearing my song in a commercial on a major radio station.
Wow.
So these are the types of things that you guys have to think about. One more story real quick is Michael Ames, my partner, actually does place music in film and television and video games and other media and things like that. And one of the ways that he signed one of his clients is because his wife was at a spinning class, and there was an artist that was smart enough to say, if I get my music to spin teachers, they're going to play it in class. We live in LA. There's a lot of people that go to the gym to exercise. And that's exactly what happened. His wife told him about a song she really liked. He Shazammed it, looked it up, went to go see the artist perform live, and ended up signing him a year later. And now the guy places stuff in all big kind of commercials and stuff like that. So I would say, don't always think the direct route. Think about like going through back doors. Try to think about how you can connect the dots to where you want to go. And cleverly get there. So hopefully that was useful to you, because I think that's a really, really important tip.
I think that was a great answer. And you know what? In 30 seconds, I'll tell you that I was watching the Oscar years ago, and the woman who scored one of Martin Scorsese's film won the Oscar for Best Score. She got up there, and she actually included in her thank you speech, she said, for all of you wannabe composers, aspiring composers, I met Martin Scorsese when we were both in college. He was in film school, I was in music school, and I scored his student film, and I've been working for him ever since. So that absolutely proves your point.
Exactly. And then, of course, this isn't like sort of a plug, but also straight up, you guys, utilizing Taxi. It provides you an opportunity. There's two opportunities here. Number one, to get your music listened to by people that truly are passionate about your success, and to get feedback directly from them. And if you're wise enough, you'd go home and actually incorporate that feedback into your new works. And then secondly, it gives you kind of the whole, it gives you training on how things are pitched and how things and how the business works. And then I have seen with my own eyes over the years that I've been there, people getting placed, people making money. And Taxi says this itself. You shouldn't only rely on just Taxi as like this is going to be your saver, and you put all your money just on number 7, and then you get mad if you don't get a placement. Taxi should be one part of your entire strategy, and Taxi should be a big part of it, because it's an awesome company. And Michael, you did not pay me to say that, right?
I did not. I didn't ask you to. I appreciate you saying it. We are not only a launching pad, we've become one of the best networking tools in the music industry. And that was something I really didn't see when I wrote the original business plan. And I'm so proud of that fact that we've got this awesome group of people. They come together in the chat room on this show. They come together in our forum. They come together at the Road Rally. They collaborate with each other. And there's this huge global network that's been built because of a company that came from a good idea I had 28 years ago. So, Bobby, yeah. I know you got to run. I will plug the books again. And I want you to know that even before you and I talked about you coming on the show, when we bugged out of the office to go home and work remotely, I brought these 2 books home with my stash of stuff. I don't know why my autofocus is so bad today. Anyway, brought these books home, irregardless of the fact I didn't know that we would have you on the show. So it just shows you how much I appreciate your work. I think you did a great job. Most revisions and new editions of books are just not that much better than the original. Yours are, you can tell just by thumbing through it, which is all I've done so far, frankly. Already I'm like, wow, this is way better than the first edition. So we will post links in our not only in the comment section, but in the description below the video. Thank you. Go do your other thing. Thanks for taking the time to do the show with us today. And
yeah, thanks. And Michael, if you don't mind, if I could just take 10 seconds, real quick. I want to tell everybody that right now, certainly I appreciate anyone that goes out and gets it, certainly because that's the whole point of writing something. You want it to be read, of course. But physical sales are difficult right now because Amazon is way backed up. So you can also get it in digital download from Apple iBooks or Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or wherever. And on another note, if you don't mind, if you guys are interested in free content. I've recently launched a video show on YouTube. That's just very, very short videos, 10-minute interviews and things like that. It's at Bobby Borg, YouTube/Bobby Borg. And maybe that will supplement all of the, the stuff you guys are already doing out there. Cool. Michael, in fact, is a guest on a couple.
I was going to say, is that the thing you interviewed me for, 2.5 months ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you'll be featured on there. So,
awesome. That gives everybody a reason to go watch it. They don't see enough of this face as it is. All right, Bobby. Thank you, man. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Congrats on the books, and I'll talk to you in person when we can give each other a hug again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Michael, and take care, everybody. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Bobby Borg, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, baby.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and stay healthy and stay positive.
All right. See you, Bobby. Take care.
Take care.
Oops. My phone's upside down. There we go. Yeah, he's a force of nature, that one. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining me. Sorry we went long, but when you got somebody as good as Bobby on the other end of the phone, it's hard to hang up on the dude. Edmund Red, you were the one that left the post about asking about composer strategies. I thought that was a great question. So I loved hanging out with you guys all week this week. Seriously, it was a treat for me. I enjoyed it so much. It was everything I hoped the Quarantini happy hour would be. I think we're all happy to hear that we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Who knows what the, rebuilding of society will look like over the coming months. But we'll continue to do these daily shows for a while. And please don't forget to make sure that you are in the chat room at 3:59 on Monday for the show I'm going to do. You do not want to show up 5 or 10 minutes late. Don't wait for the alert. I'm going to come out of the gate. I'm not going to be doing the, friendly chit-chat stuff at the top of the show, waiting for the room to fill up. I'm coming out with all guns a-blazing. And, also, if I can ask you guys during the show on Monday, if we could keep the chit-chat about what we're drinking or what we're having for dinner or we're going to the beach next week or whatever, keep that to a minimum because I want to stay really focused so I can get as much information out to you guys as I can. So I'm going to be pretty non-participatory in the chat. So just bring a notebook. You're going to want to take notes. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Wash your hands. Stay inside. Stay socially distanced. Most importantly, stay healthy. Go make some music. Thanks for hanging out with me today.